Welcome back to the channel. Today is Tuesday, February 18th, and we've got more college basketball best bets for you here on the channel. I'm actually recording this video during halftime of the Kansas State-Utah game, so I don't actually know how our day yesterday concluded. Right now, we are 1-2, but let's hope Arizona and Utah can come through. I'm sure I will hear about it in the comment section if we don't hit on those. It's all right, though. We're trying to bounce back today. Shout out to Florida A&M coming through with the victory yesterday. That's the only one we know for sure as of now. But we are back here for a loaded Tuesday slate, a lot more games, and I feel a lot better about today's slate. Before, though, we get into the best bets, folks, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. A couple days ago, we posted our UFC Fight Night Seattle predictions. Henry Cejudo, Song Yadong in the main event for the UFC in the bantamweight division. Make sure to check that video out. Link is in the description down below. And also, we have linked our MMA channel on the channel, new channel here at the Greedo Plays brand, Greedo Plays MMA. We're going to start posting all of our MMA content over there on March 2nd for our UFC 313 Pereira versus Ankalaev predictions. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below on this channel and on Greedo Plays MMA. You can be part of the first 100 to subscribe to Greedo Plays MMA if you do it right now. All right, let's get into the first of our 5 best bets for today, and we will start here with a matchup that we actually talked about for their initial matchup between these two squads. We are talking about Jacksonville and Florida Gulf Coast here from Fort Myers, Florida. The first time around, all right, we got it wrong. We picked Jacksonville. We picked Jacksonville on Saturday as well. You're not going to get me 3 times in a row. We are taking Florida Gulf Coast this time around. Now, I wasn't impressed with Florida Gulf Coast prior to that initial Jacksonville victory. They were coming off a loss on the road to Eastern Kentucky. Now, we are actually going to be talking about EKU in a little bit, but Florida Gulf Coast, since that Jacksonville win, has lost to Eastern Kentucky at home. All right, that's one of the elite teams right now in the conference. They beat Stetson, they beat North Florida on the road, and they lost back-to-back games recently to Austin, PA, and to Lipscomb. Now, the Lipscomb loss isn't as bad as the Austin, PA loss. That one's not great. But again, as I was watching that Jacksonville game on Saturday, I was just so unimpressed. I get it. They were on the road at North Alabama, and we said it. If that team was going to win that game, they needed Robert McCray, who is their leading points scorer, and he's their leading assist getter. I think he had about 11 assists in that basketball game, but we said McCray needs to have a night. Now, Robert McCray ended up scoring 17 points, but a lot of those came at the very end of the game. Garbage time points, you would say, because there was a lot of Chris Arias off the bench, who went 4 for 5 from the three-point line in that game, 17 points. Kendall Munson wasn't bad as well, but McCray, I believe, at half had like 4 or 5 points. Jacksonville needs him to show up, and now they're going on the road again, and I get it. The Eagles of Florida Gulf Coast are not on the same level as North Alabama. The Lions right now do look like the best team in the Atlantic Sun, even though, yeah, EKU might be on that level. Again, we'll get to them in a couple minutes here, but I think Florida Gulf Coast is okay in this game. The initial matchup between these two squads, Florida Gulf Coast went on the road and beat Jacksonville. Now Jacksonville's got to go to Fort Myers for this game. It was a game where Jacksonville is a 2.5-point favorite, and of course, again, Florida Gulf Coast ends up winning it. We get those same exact odds, just flipped now with the Eagles at home. In that game for Florida Gulf Coast, it was Dalian Jackson with 20 points. It was Keyshawn Kellman with 19. And again, I think Florida Gulf Coast is just better right now. Watching Jacksonville play that game against North Alabama, first half, all right, it is what it is. They were trailing. That second half, they could not put together any stops. We got 6.5 points in that game. They ended up losing the game by 13. It's just because they couldn't get stops. There were points in the game, sure. Jacksonville's scoring. They could not put together 2 back-to-back defensive stops, nor could they get a stop after they scored themselves. I don't trust the defensive unit here out of Jacksonville, and I get it. Florida Gulf Coast doesn't play the best offensive ball, but against this Jacksonville team, who we saw let everything go in the North Alabama game, I think that the Eagles are going to be all right at home. Again, we talked about Dalian Johnson and Keyshawn Kellman, the two guys who led the Eagles in points in that first matchup with Jacksonville. You get them, you get Xavier McLean as well, who averages 12, and Jevin Muniz, who averages 10 points. But again, it's going to be Johnson and Kellman are going to be the leading scorers for the Eagles in this spot. And I think, again, a lot of this prediction and this bet goes with this game being at home for Florida Gulf Coast. They won the initial game. They did it on the road. It sure was a close game. They were leading for most of it. They ended up winning the game by 4, but now they get the same exact same exact game against Jacksonville, but now they're just at home. I'm all right with it. Again, In Jacksonville's last game, I thought their best scorer was coming off the bench, and by far their best shooter was coming off the bench in Arias. Arias is a guy who averages 6 points a night. Again, for Jacksonville, they're going to need to depend on Robert McCray, because McCray's their only guy who scores more than 10 points a night. They play an 8-man rotation, 9-man rotation here for Jacksonville, and McCray's usually their leading scorer. Again, double-digit assists in his last game, double-double, but he's got to come on earlier than just the garbage time minutes or just the last 4 minutes of the game. You need a full, again, 40 minutes out of Robert McCray. Out of likely, he'll play about 32, 34 in this game. I like the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles at home. They are 2.5-point favorites. I expect them to win and beat Jacksonville, who again doesn't play defense, and I think had a really good shooting night, but had a good shooting night out of guys that they really can't depend on, and they're reliable guy the entire season in McCray. Just didn't turn up in the North Alabama game. They got to go back on the road 3 days later. I like the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles to win at home and cover the 2.5 points as well. We move on to our second best bet of the video, and again, we talked about some Atlantic Sun basketball earlier, and here we go again. We're talking about potentially the hottest team in the conference right now. I get it, North Alabama's really good, but as I was watching that broadcast between Jacksonville and North Alabama, the commentators of that game had made it a point that, all right, North Alabama is probably the best team in the conference. Jacksonville, they were talking if Jacksonville can come back and win that game, they're not bad. But the other really good team right now in the conference, with respect to their opponents tonight in the Lipscomb Bisons, is the Eastern Kentucky Colonels. This team is playing really good basketball right now. They are. They are on a huge winning streak. They have not lost a game since their 1-point loss at home to Stetson back on January 23rd. What have they done since? They have won 7 in a row. A 4-point victory over Florida Gulf Coast. A win on the road at Lipscomb. Again, kind of the same situation like we got in our previous Atlantic Sun game. Again, with Florida Gulf Coast going on the road and beating Jacksonville in their first matchup. East Kentucky did the same exact thing against Lipscomb, who is a better team than the two that we previously just mentioned. Lipscomb currently second in the ASUN, with Eastern Kentucky kind of being in that third place. Again, somewhat of tie, I guess, just in that mashup of teams with them, obviously FGCU and the Jacksonville Dolphins. But again, after that Colonels victory at Lipscomb, they beat Austin Peay. They go to FGCU, win the game by 18 points. They get their get back at Stetson. They lose the first game again by 1. They go to Florida and beat Stetson by 25 points the second time around, and then back-to-back home victories against West Georgia, and then a huge spot on Saturday with another one of these really good teams in the ASUN in Queens. They beat Queens University by 6 points in overtime. This Eastern Kentucky team is on fire right now, and that's why I'm surprised they are 3.5-point dogs in this spot. They're underdogs here against Lipscomb, and I get it. The Bisons are 19-8. They are 11-3 in the conference. EKU again 10-4 in the conference. And Lipscomb is on a roll of their own. Their last loss, though, being the loss to Eastern Kentucky on January 30th. Since then, they beat Bellarmine by 7 points. They went to West Georgia, won the game by 9. They went to Queens and won the game by 13. Stetson and Florida Gulf Coast back-to-back victories at home for them as well. But Eastern Kentucky's already beat them, and now again, Lipscomb's got to go to Kentucky for this game. I don't know. I mean, the Bisons are led by Jacob Oganovich, who's averaging 20 points tonight, 20 and 8. He's by far the best guy on this Lipscomb team. Will Pruitt and Geisy Powell also averaged 13 and 12 respectively. Joe Anderson is going to give you 11. But for the Colonels, man, it's been an all-around group effort, but it's two guys as of late. It's George Kimball and it's Devontae Blanton. Kimball the third with 18 points tonight, and then their forward in Blanton's averaging at 16 and a half. They've got some other forwards who play big minutes in Myar Wool and Montavious Myrick. Myrick averaging 6.5 and 8 a game. Wool averaging 8 and 5 or 9 and 5. Again, I just think it's the way Eastern Kentucky's been playing. It's all about momentum. It's all about what have you done recently. Again, I understand Lipscomb is on a winning streak of their own. That's fine. But again, who's that last loss? It's Eastern Kentucky. This team has not lost a game in over a month now, and they're on fire again with 7 straight wins. Again, the ASUN tournament is coming up. There's only 4 more games in ASUN play. They're one of the conferences that get their conference tournaments done earlier. I think this is one of the few that actually do start in very early March, because some of them, again, like the power conferences, they'll start in the second week, or well, not the third week. Yeah, they'll start in the second week of March potentially. So again, these teams are coming right out the gate right now, trying to prepare for the ASUN tourney, all preparing or all fighting for seeding. And I think Eastern Kentucky is going to get Lipscomb here. Again, the elite of the ASUN is probably North Alabama 1, 2 Lipscomb, and then that, Jacksonville, Eastern Kentucky, Queens, and Florida Gulf Coast, all those teams are fighting for that third spot. And then again, you get, the Austin PAs and North Floridas and Stetsons of the world before, again, Central Arkansas, West Georgia, and Bellarmine. Well, Bellarmine's by far the worst squad at 0-14, but you know what I mean, right? This is an elite matchup in the A-Sun, just like the game we just talked about, but I think everything in this one does point to a Colonel's victory. The same exact scenario we talked about with Jacksonville and Florida Gulf Coast applies directly to this one as well. Eastern Kentucky won the first matchup on the road, and now they're going to win it at home. That first matchup, again, they were able to go out there and win the game by 9 points. They started off cold in A-Sun play, sure. They lost to North Alabama by 21 on the road. They lose to Jacksonville. They lose to Austin, PA. They lose to Stetson. But again, 7 straight wins. Kimball and Blanton are your guys here for the Colonels, and I think they take care of business here at home against the Lipscomb Bisons. Give me the Eastern Kentucky Colonels to win in Richmond, again, over Lipscomb. Let's go to our third best bet of the video as we move now to the Mid-American Conference. And I know what you're thinking. You're seeing a 20.5 point spread. I understand. It's a lot. We're taking Northern Illinois to cover this. Now, I've been hyping up Akron the entire season. If you want to roll back, I believe I'm pretty sure our first college basketball bets video of the year, we talk about Kent State. I think they played Louisiana, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was the game. We had Kent State to successfully go on the road and win. But in that prediction, I did say Kent State and Akron are the 2 best teams in the MAC. Now, Kent State really didn't hold up that end of the bargain. They're in the middle of the pack right now. Again, it's Akron, and then it's like Miami of Ohio, and then I'd put Kent State in that next tier with teams like Toledo and the Ohio Bobcats. But I thought it was going to be a 2-team race for first, and again, it's just been really Akron because the Zips are undefeated in the Mid-American. They are 12-0. But I've been talking highly, and I've been speaking highly of the Zips the entire season. And that doesn't change here. This is still a very good basketball team, but asking them to cover 20.5 points is just a lot. And I get it, the game is in Akron, Ohio. They've only covered this line, I think, twice all year in the MAC. If I'm not mistaken, 3 times they have. They covered it against Miami of Ohio at home, which that goes to show you how good Akron is. But I'll get into my reasoning on why I think Northern Illinois can cover this game. Again, they beat Miami of Ohio by that line. That's like 8 games ago at this point. They beat East Michigan on the road in Kalamazoo. No, Kalamazoo's Western Michigan, I think. They go to East Michigan, win the game by 24. And their other blowout victories, Buffalo. But the Bulls just, they're not hot this season. They're not. They don't got CJ Agbana and the guys over with the football program. We were all over Buffalo football last year. But recently for the Zips, they're winning games. Don't get me wrong. 12-0 in the MAC, but a 10-point victory at NIU, the first matchup, obviously. A road win at Kent State by 14. A home win over Ball State by 8. A home victory over South Alabama by 13. A home win against West Michigan by 13. And then a road victory in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, I believe, against Central Michigan, right? Against the Chippewas. They win the game by 3 points. This Zips team's good. I'm not going to deny that. They've got really good players in this team. Nate Johnson, Tavari Johnson, Isaiah Gray. I mean, all these guys averaging 14, 10-ish points a night. These are good players, and Akron will score because they are deep. I mean, the guys in this rotation, 1 through 9, 1 through 10, I mean, they can all play on this squad because like even Tavari Johnson, who averages 13 points a night, he only plays 24 minutes. I mean, you see some of these college teams, these guys are playing 34, 35. Hell, look at the St. Louis Billikens, right? I mean, that team, they play their starters, like guys like, oh my goodness, Robbie Avila is playing 40 minutes a night, and Gibson Giberson's playing 40 minutes a night for that team. That's not really how Akron functions because they're so deep. They have a really good all-around unit, and all these guys can, just be plugged into the starting lineup or just the active lineup, obviously, and they can play. Now, I haven't talked about much of Northern Illinois, and obviously, again, Akron's going to beat them with their depth, obviously. There is no doubt that the Zips don't win this one. Hell, look at the odds. Minus 6,000 for the Zips, plus 1,800 for Northern Illinois. And hopefully this game doesn't go like our last blowout potential cover that we took yesterday with Maryland Eastern Shore at Howard. My fault on that one. But I think NIU does have the scoring to stay in this game. Quentin Jones averages 17. James Dent averages 14. McPherson averages 12. Ethan Butler averages 9. I mean, that's going to play. And I get it. This is the best team in the MAC taking on the worst team in the MAC. Northern Illinois is 1-11. Akron is 12-0. Northern Illinois' only victory this year in Mid-American play is a home spot and a 10-point victory over the Ball State Cardinals, who are honestly just a middle-of-the-pack team in the MAC. Northern Illinois has not come through against teams like Buffalo, who are pretty bad, and Bowling Green. They lost both of their games to Bowling Green and Buffalo. Well, both times they saw them, obviously. They still have another matchup with Bowling Green later in the season that maybe they get, but Quentin Jones, again, is the leader of this NIU team, and the first matchup between NIU and Akron, They held Akron to 80. Again, we see Akron, and obviously, again, Akron's got potential to score 100, sure. And do I think if Akron scores 100, we have a chance with NIU? Honestly, maybe this team can score 80. They're more than capable of doing so. Again, hypothetical score, but if Akron wins the game 100 to 80, we still do cover with the Huskies, right? That's just the margin for error for Akron in this game is so low because they need to put it on NIU to win this one. And again, we've talked about, yeah, Akron's able to do that against teams like Miami of Ohio, who again, I understand is elite. They've done it to Eastern Michigan, but they haven't done it in their last 8 games. Again, the last time they did it was January 25th against Miami of Ohio. This is an Akron team that they know they're going to be the #1 seed in the MAC tourney. They know they're not, again, going to be an at-large team because of their losses in non-conference play to teams like Princeton, Yale, Milwaukee, and Arkansas State. So they know they have to win the MAC regardless. They've got how many games left in MAC play? 5, 6? They just need to win this one. They're not worried about putting it on Northern Illinois. They've got a way bigger game in a couple days on Saturday when they got to go to Ohio. Well, staying in the state. When they got to play the Ohio Bobcats, right? I don't think this team is going to completely blow out NIU. I think they're going to win, but you also got to take consideration, of course, motivation. I think Akron's a great team, but they have just been kind of getting by recently. I don't think they completely put it on NIU. I think the Huskies stay in the basketball game, and I don't think they lose by more than 20 points. So again, a 20-point loss for the Huskies means we cover. We're going to take it. Give me NIU with the largest spread of the day. I understand they're 1-11, but they've honestly been playing closer games than just a 1-11 team. I'm not telling you the plus 1,800 dogs are going to win. They're not. We just need to cover. Give me NIU on the road in Akron to cover against the Zips. We'll go to our 4th game of the day, and again, we will close today with some bigger basketball, and we have now BYU at home in Provo, taking on the number 23 ranked Kansas Jayhawks. The new rankings obviously just came out, and why the hell are the New Mexico Lobos not ranked? Can someone explain me that? I get it, they lost to New Mexico State. I get they have a quad 3 loss, but I don't understand. What does that team have to do? They're going to get screwed, and they're going to have to be a 9 seed in the tourney. They should be a 7. Just saying. They should get a 7. That's where I'd put them. It's so stupid. It is so dumb. They beat Utah State twice, and they're not ranked. And yet, Kansas is still in the rankings. Perfect time to pick up on this. We're taking BYU at home. Guys, Kansas isn't good. They're not Oregon levels of bad and Oregon levels of hate from me. I think Oregon's absolutely awful, and I don't want to watch that team in March at all. I think it's a waste of all of our time if Oregon's in there because they're going to lose whoever they play. Let's just hope they somehow get matched up in a 7-10 with UCI or UCSD, and then we can all benefit off plus money for one of the Big West squads. All right, let's just hope, because on paper, the casuals who come in and watch March Madness are thinking, oh, Oregon's playing UC Irvine, they're playing UC San Diego, they're going to run right through them. No, that's where we make money come mid-March. Anyways, Kansas BYU. I think BYU wins the basketball game. I think they do. Again, we just saw Kansas go to Utah and lose, or we saw them go to Salt Lake City and lose to the Utah Utes. Now, as I'm recording this video, this Utah-Kansas State game has come out of halftime, and Utah is up 2 points now. Let's hope they can cover. Yeah, I'll watch the ending when I finish recording this video. But anyways, hopefully Utah wins. Anyways, we just saw Kansas lose on the road, and we've seen Kansas have all these struggles on the road throughout Big 12 play this year, and recently, again, their last 3 road games they've lost. The last road game they won was January 22nd when they went to Fort Worth and beat Texas Christian. I think it was Fort Worth. 3 straight losses after that, in Waco to Baylor, at Kansas State with their in-state rivals, and then at Salt Lake City against the Utes. And now they got to stay in Utah and play Brigham Young, a BYU team who is hard to beat at home. Arizona, I believe, is the only team to do it since the Texas Tech loss that BYU had early in January. Again, we had K-State the other night. They lost by 15 in Provo. So hopefully K-State can lose to Utah right now. I'm hoping. Anyways, we saw BYU beat them by 15. Again, BYU's a better team than Utah, obviously, but I think BYU is going to be able to beat Kansas here. Kansas is just on that downwards trajectory right now. I expect them to bounce back eventually, but honestly, look at their remaining schedule. OK State at home, we think they're going to beat them. We think they're going to go to Colorado and win, but then Texas Tech, Houston, Arizona to close out the year. My goodness, that's tough. Again, there's no doubting if the Jayhawks are whether or not the Jayhawks are going to be in the tournament or not. Obviously, they're going to be there. They're Kansas, and obviously they had that non-conference resume to start the year. I mean, they beat Duke, they beat North Carolina when they were still highly ranked, right? Obviously, Kansas is getting in. They were ranked number 1 at one point, obviously, before their loss at Creighton. But I just don't think this team's playing that great a ball right now. We know who their stars are. It's Hunter Dickinson, it's Zeke Mayo. DeJuan Harris isn't bad, but after that, my goodness, it gets rough. And again, I think AJ Storr obviously has been made the butt of all jokes this year in college basketball because he went from Wisconsin, who is a team who's arguably better than Kansas right now, being a prominent star on that Badgers team, to now being a guy here for Kansas who scores 6 points a night. And the thing in the Big 12, again, is just it's so hard to go on the road in the Big 12 and win. And again, we've seen Kansas have a lot of struggles on the road this year. Many struggles. I don't think they find a way to go to BYU and win. Obviously, the Cougars led by Richie Saunders, Igor Demin. It's not a bad team. I don't think, again, BYU is the best squad in the Big 12, obviously, but situational spots, yeah, we're taking BYU to win in Provo against Kansas. I absolutely love this one. Brigham Young is a 2.5-point favorite here at home, minus 140 on the money line, plus 120 for the Jayhawks. We are taking the BYU Cougars in Provo. Hell, maybe Conor McGregor is there again to hype up the student section. I don't think so. I think BKFC's in Europe right now. But still, I'm taking the BYU Cougars to win at home and cover the 2.5 points here against the number 23 ranked Kansas Jayhawks. Let's go into our final best bet of the video. Let's go to the Southeastern Conference. And yes, it is the toilet bowl in the SEC, but still an SEC matchup here between South Carolina and LSU. No UCLA basketball today, guys. Well, we're not going to talk about them, but UCLA is going to beat the crap out of Minnesota. I don't know if I love 13.5. That's why it's not mentioned in the video. Instead, we have LSU at home, obviously in Baton Rouge, hosting the South Carolina Gamecocks. I like LSU here. South Carolina has been consistently bad the entire year. They are horrible. They are 0-12 this season in the Southeastern Conference. They came into SEC play, 10-3? With losses to IU, Xavier, and I guess, we should have known when they lost to North Florida at home in their first game. We should have known they were going to be horrible. Well, here they are, right? Hey, this team beat Clemson, though, which was so odd, because I remember we had Clemson in that game, and it's just... But yeah, 12 straight losses for South Carolina. I'm not going to rile them all off, but they've been bad at home all year long. They've been they've been bad on the road all year long. They've been more competitive at home. Obviously, their last game against Ole Miss, with the Rebels, but still, they only lost to Ole Miss by 4 points when they played that game, obviously, in South Carolina, when they played it in Columbia, but now they got to go on the road. This team's been consistently horrible on the road all year long. Vandy lost only by 3, great. They went to Oklahoma, lost by 20. They go to Georgia, lose the game by 11. They go to Kentucky, they go to Lexington, lose by 23. And they go to Gainesville and lose to Florida by 21 points. It's just not much is going on here on the road. And sure, LSU is very bad. They're 2-10, but they're not as bad as South Carolina. Louisiana State does remain competitive in some games. And yes, they will have their games where they'll get blown out in their own regard. But here's the thing. South Carolina is a team that has not won this season in the SEC. They're 0-12. They are going into enemy territory. They are going to Baton Rouge, Louisiana to play LSU. Both the seniors and the crowd know this is the last time LSU has a chance to win a game in Baton Rouge for the rest of the season. Sure, they're not going to get one in the SEC tourney. But regardless, this is the last chance LSU has to win. This means something to the seniors. This might be the last time they ever win a game here with the Louisiana State Tigers. The crowd knows it as well. They're not going to, they have nothing to cheer for. Well, baseball season's coming up, but, they have nothing to cheer for a while because, let's be honest, nobody really cares about college baseball till the College World Series. It's just, college baseball is a horrible job of marketing itself. Trust me, if college baseball is accessible for everybody, I would make videos on it, but you just gotta wait till the College World Series. Anyways, this is the last chance LSU has to win. Their schedule, Florida, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Kentucky, A&M. Those are all ranked teams. They have 5 ranked teams to end the season. LSU is going to get clobbered. Yeah, they maybe will stay in the game against Tennessee. I can see them staying in that one. They're still going to lose. This is a game where they can actually win, and they can beat up a squad here in South Carolina. LSU's only won 1 game all year at home in Baton Rouge in the SEC, and that's their win over the Razorbacks. Back on January 14th, they beat Arkansas 78-74. I do think the better talent is on LSU. I'd argue potentially maybe the best player is on South Carolina and Colin Murray Boyles. But Cam Carter can hoop. Cam Carter can hoop. Carter's a guy who averages 17 points a night. Jordan Sears is not bad either. He averages 13. And again, we're talking about the Gamecocks, right? Colin Murray-Boyles is their best guy. He is their 4, usually plays the 4. Sometimes is forced to play that kind of 5-ish role in this team too. No, it's, well, when Pringle comes out, sometimes it's Colin Murray-Boyles at the 5. But Murray-Boyles really is, 3-ish, 4-ish guy. Really good player. He's a sophomore from Columbia, South Carolina, obviously. Murray-Boyles, again, averaging 15, 16 and 8 this season. He's a good player who I think eventually will make it to the NBA someday, but unfortunately, he's just stuck here at South Carolina. I mean, again, I don't know much about Colin Murray-Boyles' situation at South Carolina. I assume he wants to be here because he's from Columbia, so I don't anticipate him entering the portal, but he's a guy who definitely could be in the NBA in the next couple seasons, right? Maybe, probably not this offseason. I would assume he'd play one more in college. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe Colin Murray-Boyles does go to the NBA after this. But besides CMB, oh man, it's brutal. Again, Pringle is their other big. He's 6'10", kind of fulfills that 5 role. Jamari Thomas isn't bad. He's just severely undersized. He's 5'11". He averages 13 points a game. I think, again, Cam Carter should probably have a big night. He scored 29 in their victory over Oklahoma, and that's kind of the type of performances that LSU needs out of their star player and best scorer if they are going to win games. And again, that's exactly what happened in their win over Oklahoma. 37 minutes for Carter in that game, 29 points. I'd expect something like that for this game. Again, he was, scored under 20 the last 7 games prior to that, but Cam Carter should be able to feast on the South Carolina team, especially, again, if he does have, which he probably will have, Jamari Thomas on him. I think it's a good matchup for Cam Carter, if I'm being honest. We'll see how LSU deals with Colin Murray-Boyles. I'd assume it's going to be, will they put Corey Chest on him? I think they'll put the freshman in Chest on him. Probably, or maybe he might be on Nick Pringle. Regardless, it's all about containing Colin Murray-Boyles. I think LSU should be fine. And again, I just thought we just talk about the whole thing. The game's in Baton Rouge. South Carolina's got to go to them to play this game. South Carolina's been taking beatings all year long. They haven't won a game in the calendar year of 2025 yet, and I don't know if they're going to for the rest of the season. Maybe they'll get Arkansas at home. I can see that. March 1st, that's probably their next winnable game. They might be able to get them. But other than that, yeah, I don't really like South Carolina. You got to think about it from the perspective of LSU, the fans, the team. This might be their last chance to get one at home all year long, or just get one in general. So you got to feel like they're going to be pumped up to win this one. I think they're going to take care of business here at home against South Carolina. They are 2.5-point favorites, which I think is great for LSU. Again, reminder, I am recording this video a little bit earlier today than I have in days past. So if the lines do shift a little bit more, I'm sorry, I'm recording this one earlier because the odds came out right away tonight. So we're taking LSU. I would think this one might close at around 3.5, 4.5, but I think it is playable, honestly, up to 4.5. I think LSU does kind of just blow out South Carolina in this game. The Gamecocks have just been bad all year long, and yes, LSU has not been better, but the game's in Baton Rouge, and I do think LSU is the best scorer on the court in Cam Carter. So give me the LSU Tigers to win at home in Baton Rouge as we close out the video today, folks, for our daily college basketball bets for Tuesday, February 18th. If you have not yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video, and make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. We'll be back tomorrow for more daily college basketball best bets. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.